So today we're looking at the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. These first 10 amendments were basically made because some states did not want to ratify the Constitution because it didn't protect people. The Constitution gave power to the legislature, it gave power to the executive, to the president, to the judiciary, but it didn't protect people's rights. And there were some states that were afraid that America would become like Britain, that the government would become a dictator, taking power away from people. And so these 10 amendments, 10 amendments that were agreed, and they were all made in 1791. The agreement was that if you passed the Constitution, very quickly after you passed the Constitution, which was 1789, very quickly after the Constitution is made, we will then be making these other amendments to protect people's rights. If you look at the introduction, it says Thomas Jefferson wrote to James Madison that a Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government on earth. So this was Thomas Jefferson, later the third president, the writer of the Declaration of Independence, the person that said all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among them are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This guy is the one that is really pushing for the Bill of Rights. He says people deserve their rights in law so that governments cannot take them away. Madison replied to Jefferson that he did not think the new government and constitution were defective without a formal Bill of Rights, but he agreed that it would be useful for securing liberty. So Madison said he thought the constitution was okay as it was, but yeah, the Bill of Rights would be good. It would give people more protection. So, Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Congress is not allowed to make a law establishing a national religion. And Congress is not allowed to make a law prohibiting, stopping people from following a religion. So you know, in some countries around the world, there is an official religion. You think of many Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, these places. These places are Muslim countries. Brunei is a Muslim country. Malaysia has a lot of Muslim law. So there are a lot of countries around the world that are religious. They have a national religion. During history, around the time the Constitution was made, in Spain, Catholicism, Roman Catholic, RC, was the national religion of Spain. And the priests were allowed to arrest people and check if they were following the Catholic rules or not, and torture them until they got confessions, torture them like red hot sticks into their body until they got confessions that they were breaking the law. So at the time that this constitution was made and the Bill of Rights were made, there were many countries around the world that did have a national religion. France was the only major country that didn't. France was a secular country. That word secular, S-E-C-U-L-A-R, secular, means no religion. So America is also a secular country. The First Amendment says the government is not allowed to give a national religion, and it is also not allowed to stop people following a religion. So basically, they have religious freedom. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Second part of the First Amendment says the government cannot make any law stopping people speaking freely. People are allowed to say whatever they like. If they want to criticize the government, they have the right under the First Amendment. And the press, they are allowed to print what they like. Now, if they print something that is a lie, other people might take them to court for lying, but they are still allowed to print it. So, We have the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, or the right of the peaceably to assemble. Assemble means gather together and protest. So people are always allowed to gather together. The government cannot stop people gathering together. And to petition the government for redress of grievances. Grievances are pain, hurt. So if the government does something wrong, the people are allowed to petition, to ask the government to correct what they've done. So, if somebody writes in a newspaper, President Trump is a stupid big baby, can they be arrested? Why not? Because of the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. If a Muslim wants to be the President of America, can they be?
No.
Yes. In the Constitution it said religion cannot be used to stop people taking an office. And the First Amendment of the Constitution says people can choose to be any religion they like. Does not mean people will vote for them. People might not vote for them. They might discriminate when they're voting. But they have the right, under the Constitution and under the First Amendment, to practice any religion that they like. So if you're looking at question 45 in the amendments, the First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom to petition the government. Religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition the government. Amendment 2, if you read the newspapers today, Amendment 2 is one of those amendments that is the most debated and contested of the whole Constitution. Amendment 2 says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It says governments need militia. Militia is like BGF, like an unofficial army. So people have the right to own a weapon, to own a gun. Now, this was made in 1791. 1791, people had rifles. You might be similar to what you have in your village. If you go hunting in your village, you have a gun that's got a long barrel. I don't know, I've not seen, but if you have to maybe tear off a ball and you got black powder and you pour the powder down the barrel and then you drop the ball down and then you ram, you push down till it's tight, this is a rifle. This takes about 30 seconds to shoot one bullet. Yes? So when they made the law that all the people have the right to own a gun, this meant that everybody could shoot 2 bullets every minute, because that's how long it takes to spit the bullet, to pour the powder, spit the bullet, ram the bullet down, and shoot the weapon. It take about 30 seconds. Today, guns are more powerful and more quick. And this Second Amendment has been used to say that people have the right to own any gun. So there are some places in America where you can own AK. AK-47 is a gun. And in some parts of America they say, the Second Amendment gives me the right to own an AK. to own a machine gun, to own an automatic rifle, an assault rifle. All those guns that you use on PUBG. Yeah. Most of those guns that you use on PUBG, well, they are legal for people to own in parts of America. Sometimes you get a president who tries to limit the law. I think it was Barack Obama that suggested that before people buy a gun, they should get a police certificate saying that they have not committed crime. Or a doctor's certificate saying that their mind is not crazy. And millions of people protested. They were angry that Obama was trying to limit their Second Amendment right to own a gun. Most of the world might think this is a little bit crazy. Most of the world might think, well, owning an AK, owning an assault rifle, this is not really necessary. So, making sure that people are not criminals, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe the Second Amendment shouldn't apply to the criminals because they might use it in a bad way. Maybe the crazy people, maybe it's a good idea not to sell, the AK and the assault rifle to the crazy people because they might use it in a bad way. But a lot of the courts and the Supreme Court have said that these laws are not constitutional. It breaks the Second Amendment right to own a gun. So gun rights, gun ownership is a big issue in America. You'll see in America many times, several times every year, crazy people go into schools and shoot, killing dozens or hundreds of people. Or they go to nightclubs, or they go to concerts, they go to sports venues. They go to lots of places and they kill hundreds of people. Why? Because everybody has a gun. So gun ownership is a big issue, and especially you might see it in election. If you're reading a speech from somebody who wants to become president of America, they might talk about protecting people by limiting the Second Amendment, or, that'd be Democrat, if they're Republican, they will say, we will protect your right to own a gun. We will not make any law about you owning a gun. And a lot of money in elections comes from the NRA. The NRA is a lobbying group. A lobby group means they give money to people in government and to get them elected. And after they are elected, they try to persuade them to make law or not to make a law. Now, the NRA is called the National Rifle Association. The NRA is one of the biggest, most powerful lobbying groups in America. The NRA give lots of money to Republican candidates to try and get them into Congress so that they will not make a law about gun ownership. Republican presidents are afraid to make laws about gun ownership because if they do, the NRA will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to try and get somebody else elected so that they can change the law. So, lobbying, political action groups, NRA, these issues might come up in your exam, and it might be linked to the Second Amendment. Why does the NRA give so much money to politicians? Because there's a lot of arguments about the Second Amendment, about the right to own a gun. Okay? Third Amendment. Third Amendment. No soldier shall in peacetime be quartered, that means placed or live, in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Now, this came out of the American Revolution. When the British were in America, when they bring their soldier over to fight against the colonists, to fight against George Washington's army, where do they stay? Well, they stay in people's houses. So if they come into the village, the leader of the soldiers would say, okay, 5 soldier this house, 5 soldier this house, 5 soldier this house. When they go somewhere, they will divide their soldiers into all the houses and sleep there for the night. The owner of the house would have no choice. They would have to accept the soldier in their house. They would have to feed them. Yeah? Now, to stop this happening again in the future, the Third Amendment was made. Third Amendment, no soldier may be quartered, stationed, or live in a house without the consent, the agreement of the owner. Yeah. Also comes, you might also see a link to the Declaration of Independence, where it says people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty means freedom, pursuit of happiness. So if a foreign army or some other soldiers are forced to live in your house against your will, it's taking away your freedom and it's taking away your happiness. So again, it's coming back to those rights, those inalienable rights that are given by the Creator. Amendment number 4. Amendment number 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. And no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. This means the police cannot just come into your house and look. You are safe in your property. If the police want to search your house, they must have probable cause. They must have evidence of what they think they will find. And a warrant must be issued. That means a permission letter from the court. So before a house or a property can be searched, the court must give a warrant giving permission. And before the police can ask for that warrant, they must have evidence and they must tell the court what they think they will find. They cannot just go looking around hoping to find something. They must have evidence and they must know what they're going to look for. Seizure means to take. So before they can search or before they can take anything, police must have evidence, go to court and get a warrant, get permission. So what's the answer for number 46? Answer is 4. What's the answer for number 43? Bill of Rights. So 43, the answer is the Bill of Rights. 45, we finished. 46 is the Fourth Amendment. Anybody know 49? 15th Amendment. We looked at that today in class. Anybody know the answer to 48? Women. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So before somebody can be arrested for a crime that is a capital crime, capital means you can be killed for this crime, a grand jury, a jury of say 15 people, must be shown the evidence and they will give the police permission to arrest you, and then you will go to court and have your trial. So before you can be arrested for a capital offence, a crime that would be punished by death, a group of people must see the evidence and agree that you are likely to be found guilty. except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in wartime or public danger. So apart from in the armed forces, the navy, etc. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offence to be put in jeopardy of life or limb. So that means if you are arrested and the jury finds you not guilty, you cannot be arrested again for the same crime. It's called double jeopardy. Now, imagine Omugay is dead, and Onjomo is arrested, and Onjomo goes on trial, and the jury finds Onjomo not guilty. He can actually go outside and say on TV, "Ha ha ha, they found me not guilty. I did it." He cannot be arrested again for the same crime because he was already found not guilty. Even if he did it really, even if they find more evidence, if they already found him not guilty, he cannot be put on trial again for exactly the same crime. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. You cannot be made to confess. You have the right to remain silent. Sometimes it's called your Miranda rights. When you are arrested, the police will tell you you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to a solicitor. They do this. Sometimes you'll get these two side by side. You'll get the Fifth Amendment, and you'll get the words that the police must say when they arrest you. And those words include you have the right to remain silent. That's because the Fifth Amendment gives you the right not to be a witness against yourself. The police cannot make you answer a question which would show that you are guilty, because then you incriminate yourself. You are a witness against yourself. So if you get these two things side by side, the Miranda rights come from the Fifth Amendment. Fifth Amendment says you cannot be made to witness against yourself. So the police made this speech, they say, when they arrest you, that you have the right to remain silent. Nor shall you be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Two things here. If you are, they cannot take away your property, they cannot kill you, they cannot take any money from you without due process of law. So you must be arrested, you must be taken to the court, you must hear the evidence against you, and either a jury or a judge must find you guilty, and then the judge must give you the punishment. The police cannot say, "You killed him, I kill you," or "You stole from him, we take from you." The police cannot say like that. There must be a process of law that is followed. And sometimes you might be shown the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta is a really old law from England that's about 800 years old, and it's giving people the right for these things. So if you see Magna Carta, you're probably going to see Amendment 5 and Amendment 6, because a lot of the ideas from Amendment 5 and Amendment 6 came from the English law, the Magna Carta. And the government cannot take your property without giving you just compensation, fair compensation. So if they want to build a new airport and your house is in the middle, the government can take your house away from you. But they must give you fair money. So they cannot give you, if they want to take this area here, they could not say, "Here's 5,000 Jack, we take your factory." No. They must go and find out what is the value of this factory and then give you that value. Does it happen like that in Myanmar? No. Sometimes sometimes they reduce it. But in America, they would get somebody that does not work for the government to value the land. And then they would pay the value that that other independent person has said. It comes down to Amendment 5. So, Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. Speedy means it needs to happen quickly. Yeah? You cannot be thrown in prison for 10 years waiting for your trial to begin. The police must do their best to put you on trial quickly. And it must be public. Public means people can watch. It's not a secret trial. Justice must be open to everyone to view. By an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature of the accusation. So, you have the right to a trial by jury. You know the word jury? So, there's two options. Either there is a judge is the guy who listens and decides guilty or not guilty, or there is a jury. Jury is different number of people, but in England it's 12 people. 12 people, normal people, not legal people, but normal people, normally chosen by the tax number. So you randomly choose the tax numbers, and those people are called to the court, and they have to listen. And then they will vote if they think you are guilty or not guilty. And it says that the jury should come from the same place that the crime was committed. So if the crime happened in Pa'an, the jury must also be from Pa'an, not Molamine. So the jury should be from the same place where the crime is committed. The jury will know the victim, and the jury will know the defendant. And the person that is on trial must be told what the accusation is, and they must be confronted, shown the witnesses against him. So when you are put on trial, you must be told why you are on trial. What is the crime that you have been arrested for? And who saw you do the crime? The witness must testify. They must give their story. And you must be allowed to call your own witness. So maybe again we go back to Onjomo and Omughe. Maybe Sithu saw Onjomo kill Omughe. So Sithu will have to be in court to tell his story, what he saw. But Onjomo might say, no, I was at home with my girlfriend. And so he has the right to call Honeywin to also give witness testimony that she and him were at her house together at the time when the crime was committed. So the people prosecuting, the government prosecuting, must call their witness and show their evidence, and the person who is defending must also be allowed to show their evidence, why they think they are not guilty. And they must have the assistance of counsel. That means a lawyer. If they have no money, the government must provide a lawyer for them. Otherwise, it's not fair. Otherwise, the poor people would not get justice because they have no money, they could not have a lawyer. So there must be a lawyer available from the government to represent the person that is on trial. Nathia? Amendment 7. In suits at common law is different to criminal law. Okay. Here we're talking about between two people. Not a crime that breaks the law of the country, but a dispute, a disagreement between two people. I don't know. Say, Mosquito borrow my car and break it, and he does not want to pay for the damage. We might go to a common law court. So, in suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of a trial by jury shall be preserved. So if the value in the common law is more than $20, then you can also choose a jury to come and listen. And no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined by any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. If the jury listen, if the jury make a decision, the other court cannot listen again. The decision of the jury is final. Excessive bail shall not be required. Bail is money for release. So we arrest Onjomo for killing Omage, but we cannot start the trial yet. We need time to prepare the evidence. We need time to collect the jury. So he has to wait for 3 months before the trial can begin. Do we allow him to wait at home? Or do we say he must stay in jail for those 3 months? Sometimes we might allow him to go home and wait for the trial to begin. But before he can go home, he must give some money. And this money is kept. And if he comes back on the right day, then he gets the money back. So this money is called bail. Okay, B-A-I-L, bail. So we do this because we worry maybe he will run away. But, for example, if he gives 20,000 baht, that's quite a lot of money for Onjomo, yeah? So if he gives 20,000 baht, we might think, okay, he'll come back because he wants his 20,000 baht back. Amendment 8 says excessive bail shall not be required. I could ask Onjomo for 20,000 baht. I could ask him for 50,000 baht. He can borrow from his friends and family. Maybe he can find 50,000 baht. Can you? 50,000 baht you can find? Borrow from your friends, your family, your uncle, your mother, your teacher. Maybe you can find 50,000 baht. I cannot ask you for 2 million baht. 2 million would be excessive, impossible for him to find. Now, if it was a famous singer, I could ask them for 2 million baht. So the bail must be proportionate to the money that they have. We cannot ask for something that is too big because it will be impossible for them to find. Sometimes they don't allow them. Even if they have not been put on trial yet, sometimes they will be forced to wait in the jail. Because sometimes the judge will not believe that they will come back. Especially for murder, or for a gang, or like mafia, things like this. The judge will believe that they will run away. Even if they give bail, even if they give money, the judge might believe that they will run away. And so they don't allow them to go home. But if they do allow them to wait at home, they have to have a bail. Amendment 8 also says, nor excessive fines imposed. If the judge is giving the punishment of a fine, that means money, it cannot be excessive. It cannot be so big that it is impossible for him to give. Okay, we'll finish this very quickly. Cruel and unusual punishments are not allowed. Okay? A punishment that is cruel or unusual is something, for example, we couldn't say, because you stole money, your head must be shaved like the dough. That would be an unusual punishment. So it wouldn't be allowed. In some countries, if you steal, your hands can be cut off. It's not allowed. It's a cruel or unusual punishment. Okay? And actually, Amendment 8, sometimes you'll see it now. Amendment 8 is about the death penalty. Should the death penalty be allowed or not allowed? Okay? Now, some people say the death penalty is very painful. Being electrocuted is quite painful, of course. So because it's painful, some people say that Amendment 8 of the Constitution does not allow. Okay? So Amendment 8 is about punishments not being too big, and also about punishments not being cruel or strange or unusual. Amendment 9 basically says the enumeration of the Constitution, how the Constitution is understood, is not to deny people their other rights. Other rights cannot be taken away from people because of the Constitution. And Amendment 10, the powers not given to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. If the Constitution does not give the right to the federal government, and if the Constitution does not ban the states from having that power, the power will stay with the states. This is about limiting the spread of the government. The federal government was not able to get more powerful because all rights not given to the federal government remained with the state. Or, if the power was not given to the federal government or to the state government, it could be with the people. Amendment 10 comes up quite a bit, because Amendment 10 is limiting the power of the Constitution. Again, Jefferson and others were still worried that the government would try to take more and more power and become a dictator. And so Amendment 10 limits that from happening by saying any power not given by the Constitution to the federal government or prohibited from the states will stay with the state. The federal government cannot take any extra power, or it stays with the people. And this actually is what some people, we read yesterday in the Civil War. When we're talking about the Confederacy saying they are the legitimate power because they were holding to the original Constitution, it's because of that. They said the Union was starting to break the Constitution by taking extra power, like the power to ban slavery. The Constitution never gave the power to ban slavery to the federal government. So that power should have remained with the states, is what the southern states said. So they thought the Union was breaking Amendment 10 of the Constitution by trying to take more power over slavery. And that's why they separated from the Union. And Amendment 10 is a large part of why the Civil War began. So sometimes you see Amendment 10 linked to the Civil War. Okay? Right then.